It's so great to see you all here tonight. We're so excited to be having events in person again after so long, and we're so happy to see so many of our friends and so many new visitors. I'm Raymond Robertson. I'm the director of the Mosbacher Institute for Trade, Economics, and Public Policy here at the Bush School, and I'm really excited about our program tonight. We have a really phenomenal program, and we're really glad that you all are here. We'd like to specifically welcome you to the program that we're calling Securing America's Border in Theory and Practice, which is part of our Other Side of the Border, Ties That Bind and Issues That Divide speaker series that we feature practitioners working on the border, Latin America, and throughout Mexico and the South. But tonight we're especially honored to have Chief Patrol Agent Gloria Chavez, who leads the Border Patrol enforcement operations along all 264 miles of the U.S. Border Patrol's El Paso sector. But before we get into the full introductions, I'd like to thank our sponsors and recognize some of the other folks that are here tonight. Specifically, we're really pleased and humbled to have support of the Carlos H. Cantu Hispanic Education and Opportunity Endowment. They've been wonderfully supportive, and this wouldn't have been possible without them. And the director of the endowment, which is Felipe Hinojosa, is here with us in spirit, I think, tonight. So we're really excited to have this opportunity to collaborate with them. Next, I'd like to introduce Assistant Professor Eileen Teague, who's the series organizer and in collaboration with the Mosbacher Institute's Border and Migration Program. The Mosbacher Institute began the Border and Migration Program with the objective of producing rigorous research on the origins and impacts of migration and economic border flows and enhancing evidence-driven research to support policymaking and community engagement. We're promoting multidisciplinary research to achieve these objectives and are thrilled to have affiliated faculty from across the campus, not just at the Bush School, but we also have people from sociology, political science, economics, law, and others, and some of them are here today. So we'd like to specifically welcome you all. And it's really an honor and a great pleasure for me to introduce my colleague Eileen Teague, who joined the Bush School's Department of International Affairs as an assistant professor back in the fall of 2020. She previously had held a postdoctoral fellowship at Brown University's Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs. She earned her PhD in history from Vanderbilt University in 2018. She was born in Colon, Panama, and traveled the world as part of a military family and served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 2006 to 2014. She teaches classes on American history and U.S. relations with Mexico and Latin America, as well as thematic courses in addressing issues such as interventionism, drug enforcement, national security, and addiction in U.S. society. She enjoys and is very effective in providing a voice on how history has shaped current social and political issues. And it's quite an honor for us at the Mosbacher Institute to be working with her on the speaker series to shed light on the very many important issues related to migration along the border. We'd like to thank you very much, Eileen, and now welcome Dr. Teague to present our speaker.
Thank you. Howdy, everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you to Raymond for that wonderful introduction. It's wonderful to see what started out almost a year ago as a Zoom pilot program have such a wonderful in-person attendance. So with that, I want to welcome you to our fourth and final meeting of this academic year of the Other Side of the Border. I'm grateful to all of your support this year. It's been one where we've hosted a Bolivian environmental activist, a journalist on the front lines of Mexico's drug war, a U.S. congressman helping to renegotiate NAFTA, and today, a Border Patrol chief navigating a complex and highly politicized environment at the U.S.-Mexico border. Before I introduce Chief Chavez, I want to express my gratitude to the Mosbacher Institute, to Professor Robertson, but also to Ms. Cindy Gauze and Ms. Jennifer Moore for doing all of the legwork on these events. If we could just give them a round of applause, they've done such excellent work in helping to put together this border series. And I also want to echo my thanks to the Texas A&M's Carlo H. Cantu Hispanic Education Fund, Opportunity Endowment Fund, and a special thank you to my colleague, Professor Felipe Hinojosa. The objective of this series from the outset is to highlight practitioner perspectives, that is, people involved in executing policy, but also engaging with its human impacts. We architected the series to run in lockstep with our growing Latin America concentration here at the Bush School. Today, Border Patrol Chief Gloria Chavez, commander of the El Paso Sector, joins us. As a chief patrol agent, she leads all Border Patrol enforcement operations along 264 border miles with Mexico, covering West Texas and southern Mexico. She has management oversight of 11 stations, 6 permanent immigration checkpoints, and 3 forward operating bases encompassing approximately 125,500 square miles. With caravans of migrants making their way to the border in record numbers, the Border Patrol and its mission inspire significant public curiosity. And this is exactly why I'm thrilled that you're here with us today, Chief Chavez. The chief joined the U.S. Border Patrol in 1995 as a member of Class 285. She has successfully served in a variety of senior leadership positions on the northern and southern borders of the United States, to include 2 tours of duty at CBP headquarters following the creation of the Department of Homeland Security. Chief Chavez has over 26 years of law enforcement experience. She's a member of the DHS Senior Executive Service. Chief Chavez earned a Master of Arts degree in Security Studies from the Naval Postgraduate School. She graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice Administration from Columbia Southern University. She's a graduate of the Senior Executive Fellows Program at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. With that, I am incredibly excited to introduce Chief Chavez, who will speak for about 30 to 35 minutes before we open the floor for questions. You are invited to submit your questions by using your personal device to scan the QR code found on the programs we've distributed. I've already seen a couple of questions already sent in, so I'm looking forward to your questions. We are looking forward to your questions. And I'll be tracking your questions through my iPad up here. If you have trouble submitting your question, there are student ambassadors in the back that can help you submit that question. So without further ado, Chief Chavez, welcome to the Bush School.
Howdy, y'all. So I'm extremely pleased to be here with all of you this evening, speaking to you about one of my favorite topics, border security. I'd like to extend my thanks and appreciation to the Bush School faculty, and specifically Dr. Eileen Teague, as well as Dr. Raymond Robertson, for extending me the gracious invitation to speak with you all today. Additionally, my sincere gratitude to Ms. Cindy Goss, who I used her computer today. Thank you, Cindy. And Jennifer Moore for their support in facilitating our travel and itinerary to Texas A&M. Thank you very much. In the short time I spent here at College Station, I've already visited Cooper's Barbecue. I was there last night. Delicious, let me tell you. I've attended the Corps Cadets morning formation at 5:45 a.m. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I've been up since 5:45. I then visited with the Brazos Sheriff's Office. I had some business to conduct on the law enforcement side. Went phenomenal meeting with them. And we visited the Bush Library and Museum and the holy gravesite of the late President and the First Lady Barbara Bush. I have also participated in 2 class sessions here at Bush School with the students. The hotel accommodations at Texas A&M Hotel and Conference Center are just phenomenal as well. You Aggies, you know how to make people fall in love with Aggie Land. Job well done. Well done. The U.S. Border Patrol is the largest federal law enforcement agency in the United States, with about 19,000 Border Patrol agents and civilian workforce. Our agency is one of 4 under Customs and Border Protection. The other 3 agencies include the Office of Trade, the Office of Field Operations, and the Office of Air and Marine. Our U.S. Border Patrol mission is a challenging one, as our men and women wearing this green uniform protect the borders of the United States between the ports of entry. Whether our agents are on the northern, coastal, or southern borders of the United States, their job is to know who and what is entering this country through illicit means. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, I assure you there are agents tracking and pursuing individuals who entered this country illegally, some of whom who have been previously convicted of egregious crimes, including murder, rape, child predators, and narcotic trafficking. However, in this group are people that are men and women and children who are seeking a better way of life. Therefore, the job and duty of a Border Patrol agent is complex more than ever, as he or she has to be able to balance the good from the bad. But before I continue with my remarks, I'd like to invite you all to view this short video explaining the mission of the men and women of the United States Border Patrol in the El Paso sector.
Since its inception in 1924, the overall mission of the United States Border Patrol has remained unchanged: to detect and prevent the illegal entry of people and narcotics into the United States. The Border Patrol is divided into 20 sectors nationwide, responsible for protecting over 6,000 miles of international border. With over 1,700 agents assigned to 11 stations and 7 immigration checkpoints on main highways, El Paso sector agents are responsible for maintaining situational awareness and having the operational advantage of 264 international border miles that includes the entire state of New Mexico and West Texas. These agents operate in a variety of environments, including urban, rural, and remote. Frontline agents utilize numerous methods to patrol the border. While most agents utilize their patrol vehicles, other agents use bicycles, ATVs, and horses, depending on the environment they patrol. The El Paso sector has also invested in infrastructure along the border. Border barriers, tactically and strategically placed along the border, provides the advantage to the agents, allowing them time to respond to illicit activity at the border. These barriers have different designs, either to prevent pedestrian traffic from illegal entry into the U.S., or vehicle barriers placed in the remote areas of operation, which are designed to prevent vehicles from cross-border incursions. Technology is provided to the agents to assist them with the persistent surveillance in their border security mission. Detection equipment such as sensors and trail cameras give agents precise locations of groups of people that are entering illegally across the border between the ports of entry. Truck-mounted surveillance systems and autonomous surveillance towers cover a much wider area of the border, increasing the likelihood of agents achieving a law enforcement resolution to those who violate immigration laws. Enhanced technology is crucial, not only to provide agents with situational awareness of threats operating in the area of responsibility, but it also allows station leadership to maximize their limited resources like manpower deployment. In addition to our frontline operations, the El Paso sector currently operates 6 permanent immigration checkpoints responsible for checking the immigration status of those driving away from the border into the interior of the country. Agents working at these checkpoints not only provide a vital second line of defense to the operations along the border, but they also prevent drug smuggling organizations from transporting their illicit cargo throughout the nation. There are many challenges agents within the El Paso sector face in the regular patrols along the border. Large surges of people illegally crossing the border have tested our sector capabilities. These surges fill the processing facilities to capacity and require stations to devote a significant portion of manpower to process and provide care. In fiscal year 2019, the El Paso sector experienced one of these surges when agents apprehended over 182,000 people, an increase of over 600% compared to the prior year. To address this challenge and prepare for future influxes and apprehensions, the El Paso sector constructed the Centralized Processing Center, a facility designed to hold over 1,000 people while they waited to be processed and set up for removal proceedings. The CPC now operates with a civilian workforce of Border Patrol processing coordinators, contract medical personnel, and caretakers for unaccompanied children that assist the El Paso sector with the proper care of migrants temporarily held in custody, with the goal of keeping them clean, fed, healthy, and safe. Currently, the El Paso sector is still dealing with the challenge of fulfilling its national security mission during the time of an international pandemic. The additional threat of agents contracting a deadly virus in their day-to-day duties has forced the sector to change its policies and procedures. Agents moved their initial briefings outdoors, began to sterilize their vehicles before their shifts, and created mobile and outdoor processing areas to help limit the spread of the virus. In order to succeed with our operational goals, as well as address the challenges the U.S. Border Patrol faces in the El Paso sector, Partnerships have been embraced within our local and neighboring communities. The Intergovernmental Public Liaison Team works with non-governmental organizations, congressional teams, and other external stakeholders within the El Paso community. The Foreign Operations Branch consists of a team of agents who are dedicated to developing partnerships with foreign dignitaries, create and assist in binational operations, and gather information to share with the field agents. The El Paso Sector's Alliance to Combat Transnational Threats is a partnership between multiple local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies throughout the El Paso area who are working together to create a safer border community. All of these partnerships, together with the hard work and determination of the agents and civilian staff who make up the U.S. Border Patrol, have allowed us in the El Paso sector to remain a prime example of how a premier law enforcement agency achieves its goals. Today's mission is more complex than ever, but equally, today's U.S. Border Patrol agents are fully invested in our national security and committed to its success.
And I'm just so proud of the men and women who do this job every day. So thank you for the applause. As you all witnessed in this video, there are many roles that Border Patrol agents have assumed in this complex mission of border security. As a leader in this agency, I am constantly assessing, evaluating, and adjusting our operational posture to ensure that we have adequate personnel to respond to the various threats we encounter each and every day on that border. Of vital importance is the use of state-of-the-art technologies, such as autonomous technologies, used for persistent surveillance, missions, or the automation of computer systems and programs to process people more efficiently and rapidly. Any type of technology is a force multiplier for Border Patrol agents, as oftentimes technology augments the ability for an agent to achieve a successful law enforcement resolution on any type of encounter. Through the history of the U.S. Border Patrol, we have used many types of resources that assist Border Patrol agents in doing their job. Some of these resources are border barriers to prevent human smugglers from driving through into the United States with vehicles loaded with people or narcotics, or border barriers that allow our agents enough time to respond to make an arrest. And in many cases, the barrier increases officer safety of Border Patrol agents on patrol, especially at night. But let me be clear, nothing is more valuable to the U.S. Border Patrol than its personnel. Border Patrol agents are the most valued resource and one that we continuously seek to prepare adequately to respond to an ever-evolving threat. This includes uniform agents on patrol, off the front line, non-uniform personnel working behind the scenes, our intelligence agents and analysts who help us define the ever-evolving threat to be better prepared for any type of adversary seeking to exploit the integrity of our borders. Critically, it is the importance of partnerships and other law enforcement agencies at the local, at the state, federal level, and the tribal community. Of equal importance is the valued relationships with non-governmental organizations, human rights groups, faith-based organizations, our ranching community, and yes, folks, academia, who we partner with often for the training, the research, and development. In closing, it has been an absolute pleasure and honor to have had the opportunity to share our U.S. Border Patrol story with you regarding how we carry out our border security mission. Carrying out our mission would not be possible without the men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol, and every inch of credit goes to them for keeping all of us safe. Rest assured that we will be relentless in our charge to protect our beloved United States of America. I would be remiss if I did not share that we continue to seek qualified candidates to join our ranks. It would be an absolute honor to fill these positions with Texas A&M Aggies. Gig 'em Aggies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. So please continue to submit your questions. I want to start with something that we were talking about earlier in the group of students, because I really enjoyed this thread of conversation, and I imagine it's on a lot of people's minds today, and that's about the politics of what you do in the Border Patrol. And you commented on the fact that the Border Patrol, like the military, is supposed to be an apolitical organization.
Correct.
But in many cases, under President Trump, there was the idea of the border wall, and even now, and I looked at the website earlier, for Governor Abbott, I mean, there's been over $55 million raised for building a border wall. And I'm wondering if you can comment on, just how you navigate the complex politics of Border Patrol, and is a border wall going up? Is there space for a border wall to go up in your sector? And would that help you? Or is it all politics and just sort of imaginary?
So a very important question. I'm so glad we touched on this topic earlier, and I'm so glad we're able to discuss here with this forum today. So a border barrier is effective. It is a tool in our toolbox, and it's not nothing new that we haven't used in the past. We have certainly used it, and it's been very beneficial in very key strategic areas of the southern border. On the northern border with Canada, it's a little bit more, relaxed. It's a little different. Flow is not as high. I was sharing with Dr. Teague that, I always say on the southern border, it's about quantity. On the northern border, it's about quality of the apprehension. And I say that because obviously you have people that are migrating to this country because they're seeking a better life. But then we also have mixed in there bad actors, right? And those are the ones that we are interested in. The who and the what comes between those ports of entry. That's it. Border barrier is a needed tool for Border Patrol agents, as I mentioned in my remarks, especially as an officer safety tool. They work 24/7. That night, the evening hours is one that becomes very busy for them because the adversary takes advantage of that. And when I say adversary, yes, I'm talking about cartels, and I'm talking about transnational criminal organizations and human smuggling organizations, who at the end of the day, it's a commodity that they're trying to push between the ports of entry. So without barrier, we become more vulnerable. We, the men and women of the Border Patrol. So barrier is very critical. Is it needed? Absolutely. It's a tool in the toolbox, right? But like I mentioned to Dr. Teague and the students earlier in one of the sessions, I've gone through 5 different administrations in my career, 27th year this year. And one administration is focused on personnel. I remember during the years of George W. Bush, he doubled the size of the Border Patrol, or tripled it really. It was from 9,000 to about 21,000 people, right? So his focus was increasing personnel. And then during the Clinton years, I think it was technology, mostly technology and barrier. And then during the Obama years, it was technology. So then we get, during the Trump years, it was barrier, and they politicize it because they're politics, right? We're an apolitical organization. We call it border barrier, or a fence, a border fence. It turned during the Trump years into a border wall. And at the end of the day, for us, it's a tool, like I said, that we utilize for border security. No different than technology, and no different than personnel, which is our huge resources. We always say, our most valuable resource, we always say it's a three-prong approach, right? Infrastructure, technology, and personnel. That's how we become more effective. It's a little challenging for leaders like myself. It's 20 of us. It's only 20 chiefs nationwide, and the chief at the academy, right? So it's very challenging, especially for the 9 of us that are on the southern border with Mexico, because the border environment becomes very politicized. And at the end of the day, we have a mission to do and a job to do. My job as a chief is to encourage my men and women to continue staying focused on the mission of national security and ensure that they don't get lost in the noise that they hear everywhere else. Because at the end of the day, my number one priority is that they go home safe at the end of their shift, but stay focused on the mission during the time they're at work so that we can protect the American people.
I have a lot of questions coming in about the morale of Border Patrol agents, and I want to address one that's very carefully written here. And the author writes, news outlets have been reporting alarming statistics about the rate of Border Patrol agents taking their lives compared to other law enforcement officials. Could you comment on this issue and what aspects of Border Patrol demands, responsibilities that might influence this, and if there are any programs in place to support agents and their mental health?
Valuable question. Thank you for asking it. So over the years, obviously, we've lost many agents in the line of duty, right? In El Paso sector, just in the last year or two, we lost 3 agents to COVID. But since my time in El Paso, I got there in July of 2019. Since my time in El Paso, there's been 9 agents that have died. 1 by suicide, 3 from COVID, and the rest from natural causes or personal illnesses off duty. But regardless, it's still part of our family. These are our partners. These are our brothers and sisters that perish. And one of the things that CBP is doing well, right, and that the Border Patrol continues to expand, especially today with Chief Ortiz at the helm, he's very big on resiliency. And the fact that we need to invest in programs and in initiatives that help our workforce, that are available to our workforce. I hear recently we have now El Paso and RGV, South Texas, has an initiative that they started with behavioral health advisors. We call them BHAs. And these are therapists that are now embedded with the workforce. See, in our agency, we have peer support. And these are Border Patrol agents that go through specialized training to help people deal with issues, whether at home or the challenges at work. And we also have a chaplaincy program, right? And we have a very successful chaplaincy cadre of people that help people as well in their personal issues going on at home. However, the troops are very reluctant to trust a peer because it's a coworker. How am I gonna go and just like dump all my problems on this coworker? I don't want this to get out within the workforce or within my station, right? So what we've done, we've kind of switched gears a little bit, and under the Employee Assistance Program that CBP has a contract with, they also contracted behavioral health advisors, which are really therapists. And now these therapists go and work throughout the stations, throughout the sector, and they build relationships with the agents and the people that actually need them so that they have someone to speak to. We have obviously a high divorce rate in law enforcement in general. In Border Patrol, we have been as well impacted by suicides. And it's very difficult to understand a suicide. You know, in my career as a chief, I've experienced 2 of my agents from suicide, one on the northern border in Spokane, Washington, and then one recently here in El Paso. And I remember getting the call that night about this last suicide. And I just couldn't go back to sleep. I got called at about 11 p.m. And I stayed up all night. I think I got a little bit of a nap around 5:30 in the morning. But then it was time to get up, right? And then the next day, definitely make an appointment to go visit the widow, go visit the wife and the family, and then go to the swing shift muster at that station so that I could address the troops that he supervised, because it was a second level supervisor that took his life. So we just never know what our agents are carrying with them. So one of the things that we advocate for is let's get these therapists, let's build the trust within the workforce so that they can trust them and they can just talk and get it off their chest so that they don't feel that their world is crushing down on them. Unfortunately, what's on TV, what's being talked about, what's being criticized, what critics often attack agents on, they take that with them, they take it home, and then it impacts the families. There's arguments, and even the children when they go to school. There was a time many children were being told by their parents, when you go to school and they ask you what your dad or your mom do, don't say you're a Border Patrol agent, because I don't want you to be targeted at school, right? So those are the kind of things at sad times when they stir up these types of criticisms against the organization, because we're all human beings and we all have feelings, and those agents get affected by it. So we are really ramping up our efforts to step up the resiliency. Not only, it started as a pilot program with El Paso and RGV, but more than ever now we're expanding the behavioral health advisors, the employee assistance program, the opportunity for agents to have better options to go privately with someone in confidence and really express their feelings and their problems, because it's really important. I think that COVID has taught us a lot of things, especially as a population, but then more so in our agency, to be more flexible and not so rigid. Do you know that 80% of my civilian workforce was over a year and a half working from home? And guess what? We're still here. We still got the job done of border security. We issued them laptops and we said, go telework from home. And then you would have never thought Border Patrol agents teleworking, working at an offsite location from home as well. We did that so that we could not control and limit the spread of COVID within the facilities that we work in, because they were so tight with space. So we're learning a thing or two as we go, and we know that I always say at the academy in Artesia, it's a 5.5-month academy. I always say we build superheroes at the Border Patrol Academy. They come out feeling like Superman, Wonder Woman, I do, and then you very quickly realize when you're on that border, it's a tough ride. It's a tough patrol out there, and we need to let people know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say, I can't finish the task. I'm hiking 6 miles and I'm done. I'm spent. Come pick me up. Can we get a helicopter? Because there's so much rigor that goes into your training that you say, I can't quit. It's okay, right? So those are some of the things we're beginning to have talks about: investing in resiliency, investing in the opportunity for them to seek help when they need it.
We have a lot of fantastic questions coming in. Please keep submitting them, but I'm going to combine two of them that just came in. The first is, how do you differentiate between bad actors and those genuinely seeking asylum in the United States or an opportunity for a better life? And then similarly, another person asks how you define what a threat is.
So very good question. So the Border Patrol over time have evolved, right? So I'll answer question number one. How do we know who is a bad actor and who is not? By looking at them, you wouldn't know. It's the interaction that agents have with them upon encounter. And once they encounter them at the border, and the conversation becomes, because we have to take initial data from the person that we're talking to in Spanish, right? There are some that don't speak Spanish. There are some that visually you can see that they're not from Mexico. They're not from Central America. They're from some foreign country, right? And then there's others that, well, practically, they visually have tattoos from the face down to your neck, to your chest, to your arms, that you know, well, I'm going to put you aside here. I'll be right with you. This one we need to secure for sure, because there's probably some prior history with him or her. And then the most simplest way, as we encounter families and children on that border, they don't run. They come to you. They come and find you. Then there's single adults that they cannot wait for the minute to just run from you and bail, because they don't want to get apprehended. I'm not saying that every single one of them is a criminal or has a criminal history. I'm just saying that most of them do not want to get apprehended, because they know that once we run them through the system, we're going to see the historical criminal histories, or we're going to see that there's some warrants or wants or something with this individual, right? But the initial interaction with that individual is what tells us that there is what's going on with that person. Identification and classification are super important to us. We have systems in place to assist agents to classify them and understand who they are. I will say there are certain specific countries of interest that we have an interest in, obviously, but those are verified checks that are submitted immediately through different systems and to different agencies. And once those agencies get notified of that individual with a certain history, then those agencies take lead and we turn over the person to them. On the other front, what was the other question? I'm sorry.
To define what you consider
the threat.
a threat.
So that's a really good question, right? So for us, we do have Border Patrol agents who are intelligence agents. And how that works is they go to the same academy as any Border Patrol agent in the field. When they get to the field, after 2 years, they qualify to apply for a Border Patrol agent intelligence position. We call them BPAIs. And these agents, they work in plain clothes. They work with all investigative agencies on the border. They actually manage information and intelligence, because they're teamed up with analysts on the border, that they're able to determine what the real threat is, right? Is it just a massive group of people, migrants, 300, 400 plus, coming at us like a caravan? Or is it 2 or 3 actors that have a very specific history, because it's been verified and shared because of the liaison that we have with Mexican authorities and their information sharing that they've given us to identify what type of threat that is. The analysts play a very critical role in the information that gets analyzed for it to become intelligence. And then once we get that intelligence, bulletins are provided, briefings are provided to the agents at the muster, and then it is also shared with other federal agencies and investigative agencies. But any threat could be anything from a person aiming at a Border Patrol agent with a gun from Mexico, to a rock being thrown to the agent, and then, or a plan to disrupt operations for the Border Patrol. Dr. Teague and I and the team earlier today with the students, we talked about the evolving threat. Do you know that today drones is a huge issue on this border with Mexico? El Paso Sector in particular has had over 300 encounters with drones flying over the border, doing counter surveillance mission on Border Patrol agents. 5 or 6 of those incidents have been proven where drug trafficking organizations have tied balloons filled with meth, in some cases fentanyl, right? They call potatoes, and they attach them to a drone. And the drone comes across from Mexico into the US, they drop it at a specific location, usually a park, and it's been dipped in fluorescent lighting, so when it hits, it glows in the grass, and then there's someone who goes and picks up the potato to take it away, right? So it's 5 or 6, there's someone there picking it up. So the first time, they got us, right? You know, shame on us, they got us. But after that, we've been very successful getting them. So I'm very proud of the men and women doing that. But it's the newest threat, right? At one time, it's running across that border between the ports of entry. The next time are tunnels. And now we're evolving to the air with drones. So that's why we partner very carefully and very quickly with DoD, Department of Defense, and some technology private companies to try and get us the best technologies out there for counter drone activity. Yep.
Another question here, and I'm putting a couple questions together here, but what is the state of your barriers and the wall in the El Paso sector? I mean, why is it that, I think another way of asking this question here too is, why is it that people are still donating money for this cause that is the border wall? I mean, what are they putting their money toward? I mean, are these barriers that you say are just a tool? I mean, some that do a lot of different things that might not be keeping people completely out. I mean, are they adequate though, or do you need, more walls and barriers? I mean, what is it that why do people keep on believing that this wall needs to be built?
So I think that in the previous administration, the border wall system, right? Many people just speak about a border wall, but there's a piece to it. It's called a system. And the system includes a package, right? It was supposed to include a barrier, a tall barrier. It was supposed to include a technology that was attached to the barrier. It was also supposed to include stadium-style lights, all-weather road, and a few things, right? To give the advantage to the Border Patrol agent doing the patrols and to be more effective in making an arrest. So construction, for example, in the El Paso sector, I think we were supposed to get about 150 miles of a border wall system. We completed, before construction was halted, I think we completed about 145 miles. We were pretty lucky, 145, 146 miles. But only a portion, about maybe 25 miles, had the technology. No other miles other than just barrier out there, right? So when people, and then now I think one of the concerns as a chief that I have in El Paso is that I see the pillars of the border barrier just laying there. And now I'm interested in, if we're not going to construct those or put them up, we need to get them out of the way, because they're becoming an officer safety issue for me as agents are patrolling, they're engaging in pursuits, they're doing their business on border security. We need to identify what happens with this material. The reason there's so much talk still about the barrier is because most sections of the border wall system of yesterday was not completed, right? It was left halfway done. There are areas in El Paso, for example, where there were gates and gates were not completed. So now I have to sit a Border Patrol agent in that hole to watch that gate because there's no gate there, it's just a hole. So people take advantage and they exploit that entry to come in. So that's why we're always advocating, if we're not going to continue to do the complete border wall system or border barrier system, then we need to finish what was pending, like the gates, and then securing some of those portions of the border barrier that were just kind of left halfway done. The initiative by Governor Abbott here in Texas, obviously it's a state initiative. It is not tied to the federal government. It is not jointly done with the federal government. He is actually acting on a state initiative that by working with private landowners, working with private state-owned land, right, to create this. Border barriers, they give us a benefit in our strategy for our operational posture on that border. They've been proven to work for us, right? So in areas where border barrier exists, we know that the entries have decreased. We know that violence has decreased, depending on how high that barrier is. At one time, we would be getting, and these in the years of the mid-90s to 2000, where I used to work in San Diego, Molotov cocktails were coming over that border fence because it wasn't high enough. It was 8 to 10 feet high, and at an angle of a hill, the adversary, obviously, they have the advantage. Transnational criminal organizations own the territory south of the border fence. They own it. There is a fee that is required by anyone wanting to enter through there. So it is a business for them, and that's how they operate. So that's why I think critically barriers are needed in certain specific areas of that border because the risk is high.
Okay.
Or the threat is high.
I have a whole bunch of questions coming in here, which is a good idea, but it kind of throws us off here. All right, here we go. What is your opinion on working with National Guard and or state or local law enforcement now versus past years? If the situation is so bad now, why are the state resources spread so thin without federal collaboration? Does this create a division between federal and state agencies?
So I tell you, I adore the support that we get from the Department of Defense, like the National Guard, the state National Guard. So I'm a very fortunate Chief Patrol Agent that's assigned to El Paso because I get to work with the Texas side of West Texas, and then I get to work with the New Mexico side. And it is night and day, right? So I get a lot of support from the Texas National Guard. I think we have over 264 soldiers assisting us in our mission with manning technology cameras, working behind the scenes as intel analysts, helping us at the garage as mechanics. I mean, they are spread everywhere to helping us. So kudos to the entire National Guard team that does that. And then obviously the relationships we have with law enforcement. What you see is the politics on television. You see the alignment, who aligns with who doesn't align with who else, right? But I will tell you, on the ground, among law enforcement agencies, there's no division. We are united. And our relationship with our law enforcement partners has been tremendous. It's been phenomenal, and I cannot go one day without saying, I need something that the first law enforcement agency that hears it does not step up to assist. The Texas Department of Public Safety, the troopers, the air support that I get from their helicopters for border operations is phenomenal. More so than probably our own CBP, Air and Marine Operations Support, because they are limited in their capabilities to provide the support that I need for my operational requirements. But Texas DPS steps up to assist us in the air. The other law enforcement agencies on the ground, they are like our force multiplier, right? We're on the front lines patrolling. But if anything gets through, or we need someone to assist us, Texas DPS as well on the highways are very much engaged, especially in our region. I know that they're dedicated in the Del Rio sector as well, and the South Texas area.
Our local law enforcement partners, whether it's the city or the state, is amazing. At the local level, in partnership with us. Even the city of El Paso, the city of the little communities in New Mexico have really stepped up to assist because they understand that the border environment, we can't contain it. It has to be a team effort. And they know that if we don't all work together on that, it's going to end up in their communities north of the border. Politics gets involved, like in the state of New Mexico, it is well known. They don't engage in those type of things because it's just different in that state, right? So we have to lean on other means to try and be successful in our law enforcement resolution. And it's a tough one to swallow, right? Because you know that you can only arrest so many people. And the other ones you're gonna watch go by and you don't know who they are, right? It's the who and the what that we're interested in. The disposition is something that we work with ICRO, Health and Human Services for the children, ICRO for the families or the single adults. And now we've added the partnership of non-governmental organizations. Because at the end of the day, my facility that you saw here in this video has a capacity of 1,040. That's it. What happens after 1,040 in an environment where we encounter 900 people a day, right? So we need our partners. Many times we've improved here over the last two and a half years, our relationships with the NGOs, with our faith-based organizations, as well with our human rights groups, right? Because we're trying to be very transparent and trying to explain, and the city as well, who owns a piece of it through their Office of Emergency Management, to say it's a team effort. At one point, I'm going to have to decompress that central processing center. And when I get the green light or the approval from the headquarters for people, especially the families, to be released, I want to do it in a coordinated way, something that doesn't impact the community, something that is coordinated with the community. So they have stepped up. At least in our region, we're working tremendously well with them because we realize the Border Patrol can't be left with everything, right? As we usually have been. We're the only agency out there, if you really think about it, folks, that can't say no. Because we are the ones on the front line receiving the influx of migration. I always tell my agents, we don't control migration around the world. Look at what's happened with Ukraine, right? People migrate for many reasons. Sometimes it's war, sometimes it's famine, sometimes it's just for a better life, sometimes it's for criminal activity and to continue exploiting that. So at the end of the day, we're the ones to receive it. So the people that we do encounter, the vulnerable populations that we get, like families and children, we're gonna transport them to the Central Processing Center. We are going to keep them healthy. We're gonna feed them. We're gonna keep them safe. We're gonna keep them clean. And then they're gonna go on to their next immigration process, whether that is a detention at ICRO and then a return back to their country, or whether that is to a shelter. But at the end of the day, the Border Patrol is going to identify them. We're gonna know who they are, where they're coming from, and we're gonna keep records of that. So I think that's, in the most simplest way, what we are trying to accomplish every day here on that border, because it is an influx of people. We haven't even touched Title 42.
There are so many questions coming in here. It's
going to happen like it did with the students.
It did. We went a good 10 or 15 minutes over. Well, I want to squeeze in one question here, Chief. And I'm kind of clumping 2 or 3 questions together that I've received, but do Border Patrol agents receive any sort of cultural sensitivity training? And specifically, I've had a couple questions where the word anti-immigrant has popped up with respect to Border Patrol agents, and specifically how the Border Patrol navigates anti-immigrant issues. And I mean, does one have to be anti-immigrant to work on the Border Patrol?
No. So thank you for the question. So is there cultural awareness training? Yes. Now, is it evolving through the years of you as an agent? That is where we need to improve, right? And it's up to the leader of the sectors to really dig into that. You know, I always say, as a leader, you set the tone. You set the tone for the way that your operations are going to run in your sector, how the treatment of people is going to take place, what is going to be tolerable and what is not. right? And I remember when I got to El Paso, the images back in 2019 of people under a bridge, people being corralled under that bridge with tents in there. It's not good optics. I know we have no space. I know where else can we place them. Understood. But let's team with the city of El Paso. Let's team up with the county. Let's find a convention center. Let's find a community center. Let's tie to FEMA. That's why we have FEMA, for natural disasters or conditions in the environment where we need their support. But let's put them under a shelter. Let's put them somewhere where there is temperature control environment. Those things we learned the hard way, we did. But those are some of the things that I came to El Paso very firm and said, we will not do. We just cannot afford to do that anymore. And this is not going to be tolerated. So we are going to now manage these things in a more humane way, right? But the cultural training and awareness needs to be continuous throughout your career. The Border Patrol agent career is a 25-year career. A mandatory age for retirement is 57. The years of yesterday where Border Patrol agents stayed till 57, it's tough. They're not sticking around, you know, and they're eligible at 20 years in and they retire. And that's going to hurt here in the near future. We were talking earlier about staffing and how we've recruited in clusters of periods of time that now, yeah, so like, for example, myself, I came in with a large group of agents back in 1995. I'm at 27 years. You probably get another couple of years out of me, but then I got to go get a boat or something and be on the lake somewhere. But you know that they're hitting that mark. So the training has to be continuous so that we can continue to accept and face the challenges that sometimes, you know, you can't let your emotions take control. I know it is frustrating. I know you're tired, but then others to be able to detect and say, hey, you're burning out. Let's get you out. Let me get somebody else in. Because at the end of the day, we're dealing with human beings. And human beings need to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their status in this country.
Another question I have here is, let's see, a couple coming in. What is your experience with the Remain in Mexico policy? I mean, do you have any thoughts on it? I mean, does it make your job easier?
So I think the Remain in Mexico policy, I mean, we call it the MPP, the Migrant Protection Protocols. So the prior administration launched an initiative, right? It's a policy initiative. It's an executive order, which presidents have the authority to do, and said, you know, we are going to process people, those people that request asylum. And the difference here is that they've negotiated with Mexico, that Mexico is willing to hold these people while their asylum process is done in court. The process prior to that was when a person would request asylum at a port of entry, or between the ports of entry for that matter, because many people do, you take this person, and now they say, hey, I have fear of going back to my country. Whether that's Mexico or whether that's another country, that person is removed from the regular process that we do for people. Once that person is removed, that person is waiting in detention, right, until they have their initial hearing with the judge and an asylum officer. Sometimes we are so backlogged, really the Citizen and Immigration Services is so backlogged that they give the person a temporary employment card, a temporary status card, and a temporary social security number so that they can find work because their hearing won't be for 2 years. So that person, this is the process of before, would go into the country, would go find employment, and then it's up to them to show up for the court hearing 2 years from now, right? So with the prior administration, they said no more of that. What we are going to do, if you claim asylum, you're going to come in. We are going to, yes, give you an opportunity to meet with an asylum officer, and we're also going to set you up for your court hearing. But while you do that, you're going to wait in Mexico, right? We've already talked to Mexico. Mexico is willing to accept you. Under only certain criteria was requested. And Border Patrol, again, it's a policy change. Border Patrol executes on policies. We don't make them, we enforce them, right? So we process these people. It was a huge adjustment logistically, but we work with our port of entry partners, And we were able to also coordinate with the government of Mexico for the people transportation into the country, to their asylum hearing, to their court hearing, and transportation back. Sometimes the judge would hear their plea and say, okay, we're gonna need to work on something, so go back and I'm gonna schedule you again for another hearing. So it was 2 or 3 hearings sometimes. So the person would come into the United States, go back into Mexico to a shelter, come back into the United States, again a third, go back to Mexico, and then a third time, the judge would make his final determination, whether it's a credible fear, a credible claim, or whether it's not. Most of the time it's not, so the person then is removed from the country, right? But the cases that it was, we immediately have to adjust their status and release them into the country. So that is how the migrant protection protocols or the Remain in Mexico policy worked under the last administration. In this administration, that policy was canceled. It stopped. And then until recently, through court order and new guidance from headquarters, we were able to now re-implement with certain regulations, certain steps. So now we are back doing that, but there's been a lot of investment by this administration to really look at the conditions in Mexico, the shelters, make sure they're up to par with its people. Unfortunately, the number of participants into that program is not high. It's actually quite low. So it's not been, I want to say, as robust as it was the last time. It's just a little bit challenging now because people make claims, right? And some don't want to participate in the program because they already know how to claim a status to get out of that program, or that we call them immigration pathway, to get out of that pathway.
We also have some water here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. The next question I have, and I'm also clumping together a couple of questions that have come in, but what is your relationship like with Mexican counterparts, and specifically, and there was a couple of questions about, do you ever have any experiences seeing corruption on the Mexican side?
So I've never witnessed the corruption. I think I can say that. I've never witnessed it. I think in the history of our relationship with Mexico, it's a little frightening to say that sometimes the people that I met at a table on a negotiation or an initiative were subsequently arrested for corruption. So I just kind of like, wow, I just met with you like 3 months ago, okay? But yeah, so the relationship is phenomenal, okay? Can I just say that? It really is. Without the Mexican government, we couldn't secure that border the way we have up until this point, and we're being very much overrun. However, it would have been worse without their support. And I primarily deal as a chief on the U.S. side. I deal primarily with my counterparts in Mexico, like the municipal police that works in Ciudad Juarez, like the municipal area. And then I also work with commanders of the National Guard of Mexico that are tied to the Mexican military, Sedena, El Ejército Mexicano, or Sedena. I do liaison with them on a regular basis because I need their soldiers. I need their people to do patrols south of the border in areas where people are congregating, getting ready to cross, or in areas where I'm having drive-thrus by people with drug trafficking organizations trying to bring vehicles across. Anywhere where I see a level of violence spiking, I call them. I actually have them on my phone. They adore the app WhatsApp. So that's how they ping me on WhatsApp, and they say, hey, we're here, what is it, chief? How can we help? Well, I need like 10 to 12 soldiers in this area. Right now we've got buses of people arriving there, and the smugglers are pushing. And I only have a few agents there, can you get over there? As soon as military shows up, they disband. They disrupt that operation and they leave. If we didn't have I invest a lot of time in that relationship, because to me, the most valuable response is gonna be the one I need when we have an agent down because the agent's got shot or he's injured. So I need that border secure and I need it safe so that we're able to extract our agent out of there. But the relationship over the years has gotten really good. Again, local partnerships, local relationships, they go a long way, right? And they're committed. They're committed to making a safe border. Unfortunately, because of their laws, they're not gonna stop anyone from migrating. They can disrupt some activity to not overwhelm the Border Patrol agents in a certain zone or a certain area, but they can't arrest them for trying to migrate. They gotta let that happen, and not do it in a violent way or in an overwhelming manner for us.
I want to just read a comment here, and it's not, the question that's submitted here is just a series of ideas, and they're asking for you to comment. And so this might also be a chance for you to catch your breath here, Chief. But the author writes, the Border Patrol mission seems insurmountable, and the agent's tasks appear to be overwhelming. However, due to the current political administration, it seems that the goal of, quote, security has been taken out of the mission, more of drug and human trafficking. As a citizen, it feels sometimes like more of an open door at the border and a free taxpayer-paid flight to help immigrants relocate. And they want to ask what you thought about that. And I think that, just taking in the question, you turn on the TV and you hear people expressing opinions like this often. And then there's also the fact that, other stories come up like the border agents on horseback that we talked about earlier last fall. And there's also clearly what we learned from you here, and why it was so important for us to get you here is because we want people to understand that there is a certain amount of nuance in what you do. And but these types of things, like this opinion expressed right now, that people believe that.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering if you could comment on that.
So never doubt for once that where we want to be is on the forefront of national security. Never doubt once that where the agents want to do is patrol that border and focus on security. That's what we want. But we can't because we're so overwhelmed. Because it is true. The migration flow is more of a overwhelming task that keeps us busy. It's busy work. And it may not be high threat work, because the high threat is over here on the border. And it's not to say that transnational criminal organizations or cartels don't do it purposely. Of course they do. Because they know that when they push high numbers of people that are families and children, that are vulnerable, that don't have probably criminal histories, the Border Patrol is going to be overwhelmed, and they're going to respond to address that entry. And if it's like that time we got from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, 450 or 430 people, agents are going to respond. Well, what's going to happen to the area that they responded from? They're not going to be there. So that's when the real work, that's when the real threat happens, right? That's where the entries with the high narcotics or the bad actors enter, right? So for us, the frustrating part, I think, for the agents is the fact that they feel they 120% can be dedicated to the mission they signed on for, which is border security, to continue to protect the borders between the ports of entry as they have always done in the past. Migration surges are very tasking for us. And because we are dealing with human beings, they come with illnesses, with conditions, they come with needs as well. So we have to address that task. One of the things that we are trying to improve is we've created a position, which I'm very proud about because I was part of the original team to build this. We very quickly realized in 2014, we dealt with a surge of unaccompanied children, right? And then in 2018, family units. And then in 2019 in El Paso, both family units and children, right? In 2021, our encounters were up to 192,000 apprehensions. 192,000 just in El Paso, right? And there was a mix of single adults, families, and children. So it's not new to us that these surges happen, but they become very tasking. So one of the things we ask, create a position that's a civilian position that can address and work on these surges so that Border Patrol agents, who we train very well, can go back to their mission of border security. Right now in El Paso, I have 85 Border Patrol processing coordinators. This is a civilian position, and that's what they do. They're at the Central Processing Center. They wear their green cargo pants and a black polo shirt. They're not armed at the Central Process. They are there to help with data entry, with files, with processing. In a perfect world, I always think, What we need is an agency of administration, an agency out of the Department of Homeland Security that can handle the processing and administration of families and children, and that it's not tasked on the Border Patrol. The Border Patrol should be able to go to work, every agent, go about their patrol duties. If they encounter people, their job will be to go, drop off at the center that we don't run, somebody else runs it, right, for processing and administration, and the agent, just like a county jail, when a county sheriff pick up someone or a police officer, they go by the jail, they drop off, and then they go back to their patrol duties. That's what the Border Patrol needs, so that we are able to bridge that gap on security and processing. The Border Patrol processing coordinators, we're going in the right directions. These are civilian positions, right? Right now, they're not to exceed 4 years, but we're working to make those permanent. And these people are now going to be the ones at a central processing center, so that Border Patrol agents are not pulled from the border to come and process. Now it's civilians. I was just informed last week that El Paso Sector is actually going to get an additional push for more, and we should have a cadre of close to 200 civilians to run that center. If that's the case, I will no longer need the 125 Border Patrol agents that I pulled off patrol duties to process and care for people. So it's going in the right direction. We just need to continue, right? And then eventually identify an entity or realign an agency to handle all that, so that it's not the task of the Border Patrol, because security is taking a hit. Because at the time of need for the patrols to be effective in the job as an agent and ensure that that integrity of that border is not compromised, it's not happening in lieu of these migration surges or high number of people crossing through certain areas.
I'm going to ask one more question, Chief. The author writes, you mentioned drones being used for counter surveillance and trafficking, but is the Border Patrol developing ways to combat the growing threat of explosives on drones or loitering munitions? I have read of other countries having very big problems with these and seen the Jalisco New Generation Cartel using them.
Yes, so great question. So yes, the answer is yes. So we're working with private industry and we're working with the military, with DOD, to secure counter-drone technology as soon as we can. We're already testing some systems in certain sectors along the southern border. I'm not one of those sectors, but one of the things I will tell you that I'm really proud about is that we teamed up with academia, and we are now in partnership with UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso, testing some technology, counter-drone technology, and it's really assisting us in the tracking of the drones and then identifying from where they're originating. And my biggest concern is exactly that. Whoever asked that question, you're thinking along the lines of security. If they're doing counter surveillance on our Border Patrol agents, that is what scares me the most. If you can tie a potato full of narcotics to that drone, you can tie a grenade, right? And drop it on one of the agents. So that is my worry. And those are the things that we're exploring right now. I just wish we were like the Department of Defense instead of like the federal government. Like, military gets their toys quickly. Like, we don't. Ours take forever to get in place. So we continue to launch our operational requirements, and we continue to let DC know what we need. Every July, we line up our requirements, and we complement it with intelligence information so that they know it's validated. And then we wait for the resources, right? But in the meantime, we're leaning on partners like academia, on DOD, to help us really invest in those technologies that are going to help us get that border secure. So thank you for asking that question, because that is where my mind is. That is where we're forecasting the threat to be, and that is something that we still need to really adjust and pin down.
Well, Chief Chavez, thank you so much for speaking with us today. And thank you all for joining us for this talk. And we hope to see you. I mean, it's spring break right now, but we hope to see you for our lineup in the next academic year. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.